Good evening, and thanks for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm sorry that I'm unable to be there tonight, but hopefully this video will give you the information that you were wanting to hear from me. So the things that I'm going to talk about with you tonight are just some things about me as a human being outside of the classroom. Then a typical day in our language classroom and what your student is doing on a daily basis. Next, what your student's grade is comprised of. Also, some other policies to be aware of that your student will have to pay attention to throughout the semester. And then lastly, some resources and strategies that your student is hopefully going to use. So I've been teaching at Fuquay this is my 13th year. This is also my 13th year teaching. I love the community. I'm originally from Hillsborough, North Carolina, went to NC State, met my husband, and we've stayed in Wake County ever since. In addition to teaching, I'm also the co-advisor for the National Honor Society. And then I've also done some other things over the years. I also work at the gate at the football games. So if you go to those, I am one of the people standing at the gate welcoming you in. This is my family. So the reason that I'm not here tonight is because of my little one. She's on the right side, Avery. She's a year old, and she's not been feeling well this week. My other daughter is Savannah on the left. She's 5 years old, and she just started kindergarten last week at Fuquay Elementary. And thankfully, her days have been really great so far. My husband is an assistant principal at Holly Ridge Middle School. And we've been married for a little over 10 years. So every day when your student comes in, after being greeted in Spanish, we start with our warm-up. Our warm-up is always something open-ended that they can answer personally on their warm-up sheet, and it's in Spanish. We get going with it pretty quick. After that, it really just depends on where we are in the unit, but every day we try to work on our vocab and our grammar that we've got within the chapter. So this might be taking notes, or with vocabulary, it might be doing different games or activities, or working with definitions. In each unit, your student also has to be assessed in their listening, their reading, their writing, and their speaking. And these are the 4 skills of a language. These are done in different ways. I use online websites for listening resources, also for reading resources. For writing, I have them do different things. Usually it's through their projects that they are completing is where they do a lot of writing. And then in speaking, we speak in pairs, we speak in groups, and we also do recordings. Your students have to record themselves in the target language, which can be kind of intimidating, but we try to work on our strategies and just try to improve throughout the semester. With every unit, we also always have some kind of little project going on. Sometimes they're little, they're called proyectitos. Sometimes they're a little bit bigger, proyectos. Students always get a rubric. They always get time in class to work on them. They always have the opportunity to see examples from the past. And they always have opportunities to ask questions and get guidance on those. So grades. This was part of a presentation that I showed last year in my classes. Homework's only worth 5%, but it is still very important to the language learning process. Your student has something to do for homework every night. It might not be on paper, a worksheet, but rather it might be some kind of studying or it might be finishing up something from class. If we do have official homework on like a worksheet, that homework will be checked and will be put in as a grade in PowerSchool. Classwork is where a lot of our skill work activities get graded. So the listening activities, reading, speaking, a lot of those turn into classwork grades. And so classwork is really made up of a lot of different assignments, just because I don't want to be doing the same stuff all the time. So it really just depends on the chapter. Students almost always have more than one day to get classwork assignments done and turned in on time. They lose 10 points for each day that they're late. And then after 2 weeks, it's a 0, and it stays that. I try to update grades about once or twice a week, by the way. I hope that you have access to PowerSchool. If you don't, let me know and I can try to help you with that information. Your students also have about 2 vocab quizzes per unit. These vocab quizzes are always given, days in advance. So students always have at least 2 nights, if not more, to study their vocab. Vocab quizzes are very old school. It's literally they are given the word in English and they have to write down the word in Spanish, just like back in kindergarten with spelling tests. There is an opportunity for extra credit on every quiz. Your student has already taken 2 vocab quizzes. They are in PowerSchool already. Tests. In Spanish 2 and 3 this semester, we take a test about every week and a half to 2 weeks. We always review for the test over a 2-day period. Students are always given a test review that basically mirrors the format of the test so that there are no surprises. Some other policies to be aware of. Students have known from the first day that they need a binder, not a folder, but a binder to organize their papers. They also all have already a whiteboard marker because with these new desks, we can write on them and erase them easily. And so we've been already doing that a whole lot, practicing writing, practicing with vocab, drawing pictures, things like that. I've already talked about late work. And then also please know that grades are never rounded up. So grades are not rounded up at the quarter mark. Grades are never rounded up at the final mark. And so yes, an 89 is a B, a 79 is a C, 69 is a D, and a 59 is not passing. So some other resources and strategies that your students already know about, but that I'd love for you to be aware of too, are Quizlet, Conjuguemos, and our new Roar Lunch program at the school. Quizlet is an online website. There's also an app, and it is for practicing vocabulary. So the lists that students get in levels 2 and 3, they are not easy. They're very long, a lot of words. They don't all look like what they are in English. And so students really need to take the time at home to study their vocab. If you don't know the vocab, then you're unable to do a lot of things in our language classroom. You got to have the pieces to put together. So Quizlet is a great resource. Your student should already have an account for Quizlet. We did that the first few days of school, and I have preached and preached for them to use Quizlet in order to learn their vocabulary. It's always the first thing that I ask when a student is not doing well on vocab quizzes. Conjuguemos is another website that we've used a little bit more in Spanish 3 thus far, but Spanish 2 will be using it starting next week. Conjugamus is more so for conjugating verbs. So it's a website. It also has an app. Your student will have a free account to it, just like with Quizlet, and we'll use it in class. And it sometimes will also be assigned for homework. Roar Lunch, I'm sure you've heard, is a new initiative here at Fuquay High School where students have the opportunity to use lunchtime to work with teachers. So Roar Lunch for our classroom for world language is offered on Mondays and Wednesdays. Students can come in, they can use Roar Lunch for making up work, for working on assignments that they haven't turned in yet, for working on assignments that are late, for getting tutoring, studying for a quiz or test, or just asking questions to clear up information from class. It's a drop-in right now, but after the 3-week mark, if your student has a D or an F, they will be required to come to Roar Lunch until I see improvement. There are other resources out there in the world. Your student just needs to ask about them. So if your student is still struggling at home, even though they are utilizing Quizlet, utilizing Roar Lunch at school, they just need to ask, and I will do whatever it takes to meet your student halfway and to see, what they need so that they can be successful. If you have any questions about any of this information or any comments or concerns, just email me, scol6@wcpss.net. You will hear back from me within a day or so. Make sure if you don't hear back from me to check your junk mail or spam, because I have found over the last few years that has happened sometimes, and parents haven't heard back from me, but it's because it went in there instead of their inbox. Thank you so much for your time. Again, I'm sorry that I could not be there tonight, and take care. Thank you.